pranams on the lotus feet of Amma. I extend my warmest welcome to all those who have joined in our program Ramayana Shabarya series, Ramayana Vishwa, the kaleidoscope colloquium on different versions of Ramayana conducted by Ayuth Amritapuri. Let's start our event by invoking the blessings of our beloved Amma. I call upon Ganga for the prayer.
ध्यायामोधवलावगुण्ठनवती तेजोमयीं नैष्टिकीं स्निग्धापाङ्कविलोकिनीं भगवतीं मन्दस्मितश्रीमुखीं वात्सल्यामृतवर्षिणीं सुमधुरं सङ्कीर्तनालापिनीं श्यामाङ्गीं मधुसिक्तसूक्तिम् अमृतानन्दात्मिकामीश्वरी ॐ अमृतेश्वर्यै नमः ॐ अमृतेश्वर्यै नमः ॐ अमृतेश्वर्यै नमः।
Namaskar everyone. Ramayana Vishwa paves out a way to know the different places in the world having rich cultural and traditional link with the Itihasa Ramayana. Do you know how many versions of Ramayana exist throughout the world? I think someone from the audience can make a guess. How many versions of Ramayana exist throughout the world? Anyone?
There are a lot of versions of Ramayanas, not different types of Ramayanas.
Yeah, actually, according to Bibek Debroy, there are more than 300 versions of Ramayana. So Ramayana was taken up by the entire world with open hands. The places that were touched by our Indic culture gave rise to new versions of Ramayana, which are influenced by their own local traditions. In a way, we can say that Rama did not merely travel from Ayodhya to Lanka. Over thousands of years, the history of Rama has spread throughout this entire world. Today, our participants will take you through the kaleidoscope of different versions of Ramayana. Together, let's trace Ramayana around the world. So without much delay, let's begin the program and invite our first participant. Let's welcome Peddi Sai Harshita from S3 Computer Science Engineering. Harshita is an enthusiast in artificial intelligence. She will introduce us to the Ramayana version of Malaysia. Over to you, Harshita.
Om Namah Shivaya, everyone, and I'm really glad to get this opportunity first of all. So now let me introduce you the Malaysian version of Ramayana. So the Ramayana came to the lands now known as Malaysia, most likely through Tamil traders. Like even after it was introduced to the region, the epic's ideas of righteousness, loyalty, and selfish devotion, it endured its popularity. Like between the 13th and 17th centuries, the epic was written as hikayat. It is a word in Arabic. It literally translates to stories, and it is regarded to be a form of Malay literature also. So now, like the many Indian Ramayanas that come after that so-called original Sanskrit version, the Hikayat Sari Rama too is not a translation of Valmiki's text. It is like its own full-blooded narrative. It builds upon the Indian story, of course, but it coincidentally exploits the Thai, and Cambodian and also Japanese tellings. Now we have heard about different versions of Ramayana. Now let us know about a folktale version of Ramayana in Malaysia. So here, Rama is called as Agung, he is the supreme one, and Lakshmana as Halam, it means the world, and Sita as Kahaya Kendriyan. Kahaya means light and Kendriyan is realm of gods, and Ravana is Gambar Mahashakti, the king of a genie kingdom. So now when we come into the story, like there was a king Ganga Shakti who married Gemala Shakti and had two children, Botara Undora and Botara Udara. And they were also married and had three children. So these three children were brought down to the earth, transformed themselves as three different flowers and dropped in a pool, like where different animals came to drink. So these three like flowers were swallowed by a goat, deer, and a tigress. So then the human body, like human births were come. Here, Agung was born to a goat, and a girl named Kahaya Kendrian was born to a deer, and Halam was born to tigress. So these three children were brought up separately in the wild jungle. The three of them got to know each other and lived together while tigress ate goat and the deer. So Halam had to kill his mother, like in order to demonstrate his solidarity with other two also. So now they came out of the jungle in search of the human settlement, and they have finally met a godmother who have to take care of them. She's name is Nenik Kebayan, so who also adopted them. Now the king of that place where they were staying, Beranad, had a daughter, Indira Baksaman. So one day while Halam was playing and shot an arrow to the king's palace, the palace was a little tilted. So then the king promised the hand of his daughter to whoever that could straighten up that place. So Halam did it. So and he have to marry the princess of that kingdom. Now Halam agreed and he departed for 40-day wedding ceremony at the palace with Agung and accompanying him, leaving behind his godmother and also Kahaya Kendrian. Then, now let's come into our Ravana. So, a king of genie by name of Gambar Mahashakti began to marry a beautiful princess, and from his horoscope, so he gets to know that like Kahaya should be his choice. He ordered his soldiers to kidnap her while she was asleep, and when her two companions were in the palace, helplessly Kahaya Kindrian was forced to marry the genie king, even though she was in love with Agung. So now when we come into Rama, when he got the news, he was so upset. Like he insisted on going on to search with the help of the king's soldiers. However, he gave Halam a ring, which would turn red he would, like if he were in the danger, and white if he was to be safe. So after few days of Agum's departure, he noticed that his ring turned into red, and Halam got to know that he is in danger and started his journey in search of Agum. So arriving at a wide open field, he rested under a shady tree on top of which there were three monkeys originated from upper world, where these three have been coming from, but under a curse by Ganga Betara. So they would become human again if they were to meet a man of honor. So even we can see this type of storyline in our Ramayana also. Like they will be telling that Rama is also a honor man, so the curse would be released. So while they were telling this, the two big monkeys then recognized Halam as their nephew. So while they were telling this to the daughter, Agum overheard it. He fell down from the tree and beheaded the three monkeys. So then two of them disappeared and turned into demigods. Then other one has become a very beautiful princess. So she was insisted to marry him. So then the two monkeys who were also the demigods have given him a magic ring and an arrow and then transformed the princess into Pahalwan Udara. Pahalwan Udara means nothing but a warrior of the air. So they also bought a horse for them to ride in the search of Agum. So the two demigods returned to the upper world while Halam continued his search for with his newfound wife for Agum. So Agum was continuously being tortured by the three monkeys because he turned them down when they asked him to marry his daughter. And while he was to be burned, his grandfather, who is the main character of this one, Ganga Shakti, came down to the earth and saved him. So he took his to the upper world and took him their relation. He was surprised. Like he got to know what his original relation was. And also he was happy at the same time that he got to know that Kahaya Kendrian was his cousin. And his grandfather gave him a ring to fulfill his wishes and a Gemala, a luminous Bezora, which he can set up a kingdom or he can try to escape from any difficult situations. Now he went back and met with Alam and Pahalwa Udara. So they three killed the ghosts and got to know that they were also demigods and actually they were also cursed. So the trio helped two sons of Raja Kandra from another kingdom who and they were, who were kidnapped by one of the king of genie, and locked in a copper prison. The genie king was so furious, like in subsequent struggle, he was died. So now our main villain has died very fastly. So now, like they stay near a forbidden garden in Genie Kingdom called Taman Angushaka. Like it is for a queen given by Genie King to plead her. Agung got to know that it might be Kahaya Kendrian and want to see it, so he transformed into a beetle and Halam into a bird and entered the palace. And then he gets to know that it is Kahaya Kendrian. So he next day turned himself into a baby and then with a ring on his finger, which is of Kahaya Kendrian. When Kahaya Kendrian saw the baby and the ring, she gets to know, like she was very fond of the baby first of all, as he reminded him of some of her loved ones. So she requested that to send a message to Agung that to save her or she would kill herself. So the next day, Agung and Halam transformed themselves into a parrot and a semi-javangi. So here, semi-javangi is a bird. Like it is one of the top bird. Like it is in the top. Like it is really very rich bird. We can say it. So and they went into the palace and saved Kahaya Kendrian and some of her maids, like using the luminous bazaar given by his grandfather. And he also created a kingdom with a seven-tiered city, like which is complete with ministers and warriors. So the mood was joyous and like the three reunited and forgot the past which had between them. And Agung was made the king, and Kahaya Kendrian his queen, and Halam his prime minister. So this is the end of our story. So I already reminded you, Agung means Rama, and Kahaya Kendrian is Sita, and Halam is his brother Lakshmana. And also here Ravana is the main villain. So now many storytellers, however, show the legacy of the particular civilization in their version of the epic. So Malay writers and storytellers produce variations like in which Lakshmana, the younger brother, becomes more important than Rama, the elder prince. So Rama, although righteousness and virtuous, was prescribed to be weak, and his character is often moved to the background. Like the younger Lakshmana's courage and willingness to react decisively appear to be traits which are more appreciated by Malays. So thank you.
That was a wonderful narration. Thank you, Harshita, for taking us to the Malaysian version of Ramayana. Next, we introduce our next participant. We have Pagila Mohan Reddy. He is currently doing his third semester in computer science engineering, and his main interest is in cybersecurity. He will be giving us a taste of Ramayana in the country of Laos. Over to you, Manohar.
Namaskar everyone. I'm P. Manohar Reddy. Today I'll be talking about Laos Ramayana. This is believed to be a story narrating one of the previous lives of Buddha as Bodhisattva named Rama. The plot is very same like Valmiki Ramayana, but the character depiction is very different. Today I'll be speaking about a few important different situations of Laos Ramayana and Valmiki Ramayana. In Laos Ramayana, Lord Rama has not given a very important role when compared to our esteemed Valmiki Ramayana. In fact, throughout the story, Lord Rama appears to be less prominent. Lord Rama's characters are also not so well defined. In Laos Ramayana, the story is mostly about Ravana, and Ravana was similar to Lord Indra. This is because Ravana was born without limbs and arms. Lord Indra comes from heaven to earth to design him limbs and arms, which is similar to Lord Indra. The true story is that Ravana is not a demon with 10 heads and 20 arms, as in Valmiki Ramayana, but a very clever young man with beauty and charm enjoying the protection of Lord Indra. Vali and Sugriva are described to be real humans. Once, Vali will be fighting with a buffalo on top of a hill. This is because buffaloes will be troubling the villagers of their kingdom. Vali kills the buffalo and suddenly it happens to be raining at the same time. So the blood flows down the hill. Sugriva sees the flow of blood and thought his brother was dead. He has left with no option except declaring himself as the king. But in Valmiki Ramayana, Vali will be fighting with a demon and Sugriva will be closing the cave. Here he will be fighting with a buffalo. Rama will be travelling to the forest for Sita Swayamvaram. During the time, Rama stops and rests under a tree, under a magical tree. It has two different kinds of fruit. One fruit will turn a human into a monkey, and other fruit will be turning a monkey into a human. Lord Rama eats the fruit and turns into a monkey. At the same time, Rishi Gautama's daughter also will be in the monkey's transition, and she'll be acting as the wife of Lord Rama. They'll even be having a child who is Lord Hanuma. Here in Lavos Ramayana, Lord Hanuma is the son of Lord Rama. In Lavos Ramayana, there will be no Aranyakanda. Rama and Ravana will go for Sita's Swayamvaram. Rama wins Sita, and on their way back from the Swayamvaram on a golden chariot, Rama sees Sita and he decides to turn into a golden deer to divert Lord Rama and Ravana. Lord Rama and Lakshmana to kidnap Sita. While kidnapping Sita, Jatayu will try to stop Ravana. This is because the story tells Jatayu is protecting Lord Sita because she wears a magical ring. If Sita removes that magical ring, Jatayu will become weak and he dies. Ravana will be removing that magical ring and throwing it away. In Valmiki Ramayana, Sita will be throwing a ring because to leave a clue for Lord Rama. From here, the story will be same as Valmiki Ramayana, but with very less significant changes. The tales themselves have been deeply woven into many moral and cultural values. It teaches us to choose the path of righteousness no matter how powerful we are. Lavos Ramayanam is basically presented in a form of dance and music in Lavo societies. They are usually played during Lavo New Year celebrations or Buddhist ceremonies. From Lavos Ramayana, their belief of morality and karma are reaffirmed. Lavos Ramayana is good to read because it helps us to know the Lavos literature and their culture of their societies. We can also view Lavos Ramayanam in the art of dance. It will be fascinating to observe dancers engaging a play. Hope you all watch them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohan, for giving us an interesting account of the Laos version of Ramayana. Now we have Parvati M. She is a BCom student in her third semester. She is also an avid dancer and she will talk to us about the Kannada Ramayana of Nagachandra. Over to you, Parvati.
Om Namah Shivaya. Myself Parvati from S3 BCom. So today I am going to talk about Kannada Ramayana of Nagachandra. The two great epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, have made a deep impression on the mind of masses. It is a common factor that most of the people does not read the Ramayana or Mahabharata in India, but everyone knows the story and theme of both epic poems. This indicates the importance of the two epics and their characters in our life. The Ramayana is ancient Sanskrit Mahakavya in which enumerating Prince Rama's quest to escape his wife Sita from the clutches of Ravana with the help of Sena. There are various extensions to the story of Ramayana based on Valmiki Ramayana such as Adhyatma Ramayana, Ananda Ramayana, Adbhuta Ramayana, Bhakti Kavya, Jaganmohan Ramayana, etc. Many scholars and devotees of Ramayana believe that it is an Avadar Kada, but some people believe that its hero is Lord or Bhagavan Sri Ramachandra. However, it is described in Narada's Moola Ramayana that Sri Ram and Lakshmana have always believed them that they are Naras. Lakshmana does not know him as more than an excellent human being. Even after the victory against Ravana and Sita is being accepted after the fire ordeal, the answer Rama gives to Brahma, etc., who ascribe to him Vishnutva, is that he does not know anything else about himself than that he is a human being, son of King Dasharatha. From the 15th to 16th century onwards, a form of literature and dance known as Yakshagana, which is a traditional theatre developed in Dakshina Kannada, Udupi, Uttar Kannada, Shimoga, and west part of Chikmagaluru district in the state of Kannada, has used different episodes of the Ramayana for dramatic presentation with songs and dance. Musical and Musical and Harigita recitals are based on either single or a series of the Ramavadara Kathas. The story of Ramavadara Kathas is feared in various forms with entire bhakti enthusiasm in various stages. So it in folk literature and in narrative songs current among the women folk. What is most popular in this part of the state, as also in other parts, is the daily Parayana of the Valmiki Ramayana in the houses of devotees. At the end of such Parayana, there is a celebration ending in the Rama Pattabhisheka and feeding of guests. In Dasara, this Parayana completes within a span of 9 days, and on Vijayadashmi day, a great celebration of the Pattabhisheka is undertaken. The bright Navami day in Chaitra each year, the day of Rama's birth, is celebrated in every home. Weeks and fortnights are devoted to recitals and other cultural activities at this time. In the second half of 12th century, Nagachandra wrote Ramachandra Charita Purana in Jaina Purana style. Normally, that story describes Jaina prediction. Before wrote the Ramakatha by Nagachandra, there was a Jaina Ramayana in Prakrit and Sanskrit, that is, Vimalasuri's Paumacharya in Prakrit and Gunabhadras in Sanskrit. In addition to the above, a Sanskrit work was done by Ravisena named Padma Purana. This was written earlier, but the ingredients of Ramachandra Charita Purana was adopted by Nagachandra from Vimalasuri's Paumacharya. Ramachandra Charita Purana is an elaborate work where Ravana is a mighty and illustrious and Hanuman is a relation of his. The story is narrated as illustration of his life of the Jaina Karma Bandha Kada, where Ravana is separately Vasudeva, doomed to be killed by Lakshmana. Rama in this birth should not be guilty of killing, so that it is not Rama who kills Ravana but Lakshmana. Hence, after death, Lakshmana goes into a hell, while Rama goes to heaven. An early foretelling of the death of Ravana is narrated by Narada to Dasharatha and Janaka with a stanza that Ravana will be die with the hands of Dasharatha's son on account of Janaki. Thus, Ravana's destiny is predetermined. Vibhishana, who heard this doom in love of his elder brother, arranged for killing the parents quite before the birth of Rama and Sita. When the murderer are sent, the parents will have left the cities, and 2 figures made in black were installed instead. The black heads were cut off by mistake. Vibhishana felt relieved. Made thus frustrate the effort. The ascription of 10 head of Ravana is said to be due to the beautiful reflection of his face and head in a piece of jewelry worn by little Ravana. Many are adventures of Ravana as he wins victory over gods and men, braving the thunderbolt of Indra and the chakra of Vishnu himself. He has robbed his brother Kubera's Pushpak Vimana and made it his own. Jambavan narrates the history of Ravana to Lakshmana and Rama and gives an estimate of his might and achievements. Only the one who has gained the sword Surihasa will be able to kill Ravana. Shurpanaka, the only sister of Ravana, is the wife of Khara. Her name here is Chandranaka. Shambhuka, the son of Chandranaka, performing tabas for gaining a miracle sword. Accidentally, Lakshmana kills Shambhuka, and after seeing this, Chandranaka moves out of anger and swearing vengeance on the killer. She then appeals to Ravana and describes about the beauty of Sita, and Ravana fascinated on her. Ravana kidnapped Sita, and to rescue her, Lakshmana killed Ravana. It is concluded that at the end of the story, when Rama offers her position back, she begs of him to permit her to take the penance because she is tired of samsara. She keeps her rich flowing hair in the open assembly and becomes a kandi. The end of Rama herself is described with the priority due to Purana. This will indicate a few of the changes in the Jaina Ramakatha. One presented as acceptable truth that this work is not Ramayana but Ramachandra Charita Purana. Both the literary and religious traits of the story are given weight. Many things in the longer Paumacharya and the Ravisena Sanskrit work are adapted, cut and differently organized to suit the literary purpose in Kannada. So by this, I am concluding my words. Thank you, Navishwaya.
That was a wonderful narration on the Kannada version of Ramayana. Thank you, Parvati, for this wonderful narration. Next up, we have Rohita Kaitare, who is doing her fifth semester of Electronics and Communication Engineering. She is a socially active student who loves to do volunteering services, humanitarian projects, and awareness programs. Today, she will take us through the Mongolian version of Ramayana. Over to you, Rohita.
Oh, okay. Thanks a lot, Rashmi. Namashivaya, pleasant evening to one and all. Myself, this is Rohita. I am going to talk about the Mongolian version of Ramayana. Ramayana is a well-known Indian epic and it's very famous. So it is widely spread in different countries and we are having lots of versions. It influenced the poets and writers in such a way that it got spread into different countries. So each and every country has its own Ramayana and the stories related to the Ramayana in their scripts. So Mongolian is also a part of it. So Mongolia is a landlocked nation located in the Central Asia. Mongolians are generally the nomadic tribes. Currently, 60% of the Mongolians are Buddhists. In Buddhist literature, there are numerous stories related to the plot of Ramayana. In comparison with those stories, Jataka tales introduced about the story of King Jivaka, which is more extensive and artistic. Story about King Jivaka is famous and well-known story which was followed and by the Mongolians. So going into the story, it's a very interesting story. So once upon a time, there was a Buddhist king. He had a wife and a son and they were having they were leading a happy and prosperous the kingdom was prosperous, then they're having the happy life. One day suddenly the king left his wife and the son. So the son, mainly the wife, got angered and cursed him that he will be not giving birth to a son or a daughter in his next life. So in the future, in the next birth, he is none other than King Jivaka. So King Jivaka is a well-known and famous king. He will take care about the people in his kingdom. So he had three wives, and none of the wives are, having a son or daughter. So he was very depressed, and one day he was walking along the seashore, and then he met a soothsayer. So the soothsayer gave an advice to the King Jivaka. So according to the instructions given by the King Jivaka, then this soothsayer, the King Jivaka will go to a forest and he will search a lot for the flower Udumbara. So Udumbara is a flower and the king got the flower and he came to the palace and then he gave that flower to his three wives and they ate the flower and one of the wives gave birth to a son who was named Rama. So Rama grew up. He learned lots of skills, and he know lots of rules and regulations, and he know each and everything related to his kingdom. So then King Jivaka thought this is the right time, and he gave the royal power to Rama. So Rama changed the a little bit of rules and regulations, and he made each and every class of the kingdom happy. One day, the sages were performing, yagnas for the kingdom welfare. Then the demons from Lanka came there and they disturbed the sages. And then the sages went to Rama and informed about this. Then Rama reached that place and he killed the demons. And there is a kingdom apart from this Rama's kingdom. There is another kingdom with full of demons known as Lanka. So the king of this kingdom is Dashagriva. So he is the head of 10 chiefs and he is having the brilliant and intelligent chiefs. So then what there is a old woman in this kingdom, so in this demon's kingdom, and she gave birth to the a girl. So a soothsayer came to the king and said that if the girl is still alive in this place, then this whole kingdom is will devastate. So then the king got king noticed this point, and he told the chiefs to take that girl, and they kept the girl in a box, and they threw that chest kind of box into the river. So what happened? This block will flow, and it will reach the place known as Jambudvipa. There, the peasant will find this a box, and then he will open it. He like initially he shocked, and later he adopted that girl and provided all the requirements. And then he thought of doing the marriage to the girl. Then this girl got married to Rama. Then one fine day, the sister of this Dashagriva went to Dashagriva and told that Rama is having the beautiful wife. Then Dashagriva got fascinated, and he sketched a plan and trapped the wife of Rama. And then they took her to his kingdom known as Lanka. So Rama got to know about this, and he started searching. Meanwhile, he came across a kingdom known as a kingdom of monkeys, where he watched the two monkeys kingdoms fighting a lot. So they're nothing but the Sugriva and Vali. So then he took the side of Sugriva and killed the Vali. Then Sugriva, like in gratitude towards Rama, he gave he gave few monkeys headed by Hanuman. So with the help of Hanuman and monkeys, Rama killed the king demon. So this is the story which was popularly followed by the Mongolians. So there is one more story in Mongolian literature which attract the readers like us. So the story is a crystal palace. So there is a palace with smooth walls. So the walls, the architecture is so good. If we see that, we were like, oh, it's so nice. A kind of thing feel we'll get. So in that palace, there are smooth walls, and we can see our image on it. So Rama entered into that palace to kill the king demon. Then he watched hundreds of images of the king demon. So he was not able to recognize the real king demon. So then he took the help of Hanuman. Hanuman, we all know that Hanuman is a brilliant and intelligent person. So he took the help of Hanuman, and then he killed the real demon. So these are these two stories, popular stories, these are not the only stories that are present in Mongolian literature, but these are the popular stories. So the influence of Ramayana in Mongolia is to be invested not only in literature, but also there is aspects of a spiritual life where few Mongolians adore apes, being believing that the ape is the image of the Hanuman. So finally, what I just want to say is that each one of us should understand that in Mongolian literature, the essence is the same as that of the original one, but the plot is different. And the plot in each and every version will depend upon the perception of that writer. So here, if we take the second story, if we compare it just for a sake, if we compare it with the original one, it is not related to it. But the thing here is the writer grabbed the attention of the readers with his creative writings in that, but the essence, he did not neglected the essence. At the same time, he even make us understood the essence of it. So the essence that he gave us is like dharma always wins over adharma. Even in the original Ramayana, we see the same essence. So it's our responsibility to know the exact scripts of Ramayana in all versions, like what it is, who did that, what is the reason behind writing it. So, and we have to respect each and every cultural scripts and their practices. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rohita, for those important points. And it was really an interesting narrative on how Mongolia took up the Ramayana. Next, we have Anjit Prakash from S5 Artificial Intelligence Engineering, who is passionate about digital content creation, especially photography. He will introduce us to the Filipino trio Tales of Ramayana.
I'm sure. Thank you, Gokul. So I'll be talking to you about the Filipino version of Ramayana. So as you have seen the title, there are like three tales. So you'll be interested why there is three tales. I'll get through to it. So the first one, which the name comes is Maharade Lavanya. And the story goes like this. Ravana is a demon king with 7 heads. As you know, a normal Ramana is 10 heads. So here you can understand the differences from this. So he's a 7-headed demon. And he was banished from his kingdom because of his anger issues. And then he was banished to a forest where he went for a tapas for like 12 years and gained power to conquer all 4 worlds. And then he came back to his kingdom and regained the power. Parallelly, when we're looking at Rama and Lakshmana, they are brothers from same mother. They went on a 10 years journey on ship because they heard of a beautiful lady named Sita. So they are on the journey and the ship get wrecked and gets washed ashore in a kingdom. And they hear some festival noises and all those sounds. Everyone is happy around there. So they ask the villagers there, what is happening? So they're like, there's a wedding happening, and luckily that was Sita's. So Rama enters in, and they are instructed what to do. And there's a game called Sipa in Philippines, which is similar to a softball. So basically, there's a ball that he has to kick into Sita's house. As you know, our hero Rama kicked it directly into her house and then won her, married her as well. And then after a few months, Rama and Lakshmana felt homesick. So they decided to travel back to Ayodhya. On their way, they noticed a golden horned deer. And as fascinated as Sita, even Rama went behind her, making Lakshmana security for Sita. And Lakshmana was forced to go search for Rama when he wasn't coming back soon. It was all Ravana's plan, and Ravana came in and abducted her. Then Rama is sad and depressed. Like uh, he's uh, he's he's not seeing Sita, as well as he's angry at Lakshmana. So they rest for some a few hours, and then Rama sees a dream that he has a child, a monkey child to be specific. But then he wakes up. They continue their journey to find Sita, and then they find a monkey army's king is on their way. So Rama approaches him and talks, and finds that that is his son, and his name is Hanuman. So in this chapter, in this story, they have comprised the characters of Lava, Kusha, and Hanuman into one person, that is Hanuman. And the story goes on. Hanuman, Rama, and Lakshmana starts their journey to Lanka to find Sita. And the same story as in Ramayana happens there too. And then they win the war and come back with the monkey army. There are two more stories in Filipino version which is similar, but there are significant changes. Like in one of the stories, it's a fairy tale. It's for kids. So in that, Ravana is a 7-headed demon, and in another story, he's a 10-headed demon, as in Ramayana. And in the fairy tale, the story starts from the abduction of Sita. The winning and all those things are not there. Only it starts when Rama's unhappy marriage with Sita, because they don't have a child yet, and then they realize they have a child who is Hanuman. And all these stories shows one thing, that our Indian literature has traveled all the way from India till Philippines. So they have absorbed the significance of the story and they have incorporated into their versions of this. In one of the stories shows that Hanuman, who is a monkey king, he turns into an adult and then he becomes a handsome Datu and rules Ayodhya happily ever after. And the the when I check these things, it's noticed that some of the changes were in winning of Sita, abduction, search, and the return to Ayodhya. One of the story it was showing that Lakshmana is elder to Rama too. So it's very interesting to read these stories, and you should, when you have free time, just go through every single literature, as my friends will be explaining other few literatures, and yeah, that's pretty much it from it. Thank you.
That was totally different version of Ramayana. Thank you very much, Anjit, for taking us through the tales of Ramayana from the Philippines. Now we have Meenakshi D. Shivan from S5 Intimacy Chemistry. Meenakshi is a passionate writer and a reader. Now she will detail us through the Kamba Ramayana. Over to you, Meenakshi.
Thank you, Rashmi. Namashivaya all. I'm here to talk about one of the most famous versions of Ramayana, the Ramavataram, also known as Kamba Ramayana. Ramayana, as we all know, is a magnum opus composed by the same poet Valmiki. A few thousand years later, in 1200 AD, Kamban, a famous Tamil poet, wrote Ramavataram based on Ramayana. Kamban was attracted by the Rama cult, but he faced a dilemma. Should he show Rama as a man following the footsteps of the original story of Valmiki, or portray him as a god because of the fact that Rama was worshipped in temples by then? Kamban, being a born poet and a creative artist, adopted a midway, an amicable solution for both the sections, those who considered Ramayana as legend as well as those who worshipped for in his Tamil epic Ramavataram, Rama was born as a man and became a god by his exemplary qualities. From then, Kamban emerged as an emperor of poets, or more famously known as the Kavi Chakravarti. The story of Rama was well sung in Kamban's time. Kamban makes full use of this fame and does something that no other piece of literature had done before him, and that too with such conviction. He emphasized the glory of Ramanama. Although Hanuman plays a major role in this glorification, Kamban introduces somebody which is not found in Valmiki's Ramayana to further underline the importance of Ramanama. The story goes like this. The delegation of Vanaras, led by Hanuman, marched towards the south in search of Sita. They reached the seashore on the tip of the peninsula on the side of Mount Mahendra. Crestfallen crestfallen about their failure to find Sita, they urge Angada, being the king designated, to go back to Kishkinda and brief his mother Tara, King Sugriva, and Rama that they would wait there and perish just like Jatayu. Jatayu's elder brother Sambadi, whose wings had been burned, was lying there listening. He crawls up to the Vanaras and makes inquiries. He becomes heartbroken to know that Jatayu is dead and performs the last rituals. Now let's look at the story of somehow somebody burns his wings. Sambadi and Jatayu are the two sons of Arunan, Surya's charioteer. Both the birds wanted to see heaven and they take flight. But as they get too close to Surya's chariot, the heat sears them. Somebody, being the protective brother, quickly shields his brother by spreading his wings. In the process, his wings were burned and somebody fell. Horrified, Surya consoles somebody and says that when the Vanara battalion comes his way, he should keep uttering Ramanamam and help the Vanara battalion, and that his wings would immediately grow back. Finally, the moment had come, and somebody requested all the Vanaras to recite the Ramanama. His wings started to grow, and he flew away by telling the Vanara army about Sita's incarceration in Lanka. This is the first time the importance and the benefit of reciting Ramanamam has been recorded. From then onwards, it is said that Hanuman follows this and is blessed with immense benefits. Now let us look at some of the salient features of Kamba Ramayana. Kamban's concept of virtue is definitely the topmost feature of Kamba Ramayana. When he describes the place, the people, the king and his ministers, Kamban's idealism comes to play immediately. Another feature of Kamba Ramayana is love. The most significant contribution Kamban made to Tamil literature and to humanity in general is his definition and clarification of love. According to Kamban, love refers to deep devotion or faith with perfect fusion of the minds. If this love is directed towards the divine, it is extremely unselfish and absolute. Kamban demonstrated his concept of love and chastity between man and woman using Raman and Sita as the ideal couple, and he used Ravanan as an example of a very learned man degrading himself with infatuation with somebody else's wife. The next is chastity. Kamban portrays Sita as the queen of chastity. In the Ramavataram, there is an incident where she tells Hanuman that if she died in captivity, the only thing that she would pray for was that she should be born again and that Raman should come back and touch her. The next feature is definitely universal brotherhood. Raman's friendship showed no boundaries and did not discriminate between friends or enemies. He did not even exclude members from the Vanara family or the demon family if his friendship was sought with sincerity. Forgiveness. One of the most noblest qualities of man is forgiveness, which is described as divine. To emphasize the nobility of forgiveness, in Ramavataram, Kamban made Raman skillfully talk Dasharathan into forgiving Kaikeyi. Now, to conclude, though Kamban followed the original story by Valmiki, he certainly did not choose to undertake a translation. Ramavataram is not a translation or transliteration of Valmiki's Ramayana. Kamban has left his indelible impression on everything, making his work unique. Let us continue to seek refuge in Ramayana and its various versions, for everything finally mends down to the advice that asks us to lead a virtual life and thus win over all our obstacles, an excellent remedy to most of our social problems. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you, Meenakshi, for enhancing us with this beautiful story written by the great poet Kamban. So up next, we have Amrita Varshini ER from S5 Artificial Intelligence Engineering, who is an enthusiast in Ramayana and Mahabharata. She likes to work on machine learning and deep learning, but she also has a keen interest in the Sanskrit language. Today, she will share with us the Ramayana route, a detour to Nepal.
Thank you, Gokul. Om Amriteshwari Namaha. My most humble prostrations at the lotus feet of our most beloved Amma. Kujantam Rama Rameti Madhuram Madhuraksharam Aruhya Kavita Shakham Vande Valmiki Kokilam. My salutations to Sage Valmiki, who ascended the pinnacle of poetics with his sweet recital of Ramanama. It is not a little known fact that sage Valmiki is referred to as the Adikavi or the first poet. In the same way, Ramayana is considered to be the first epic poem. Now, let us take a detour to our neighboring country, Nepal, in this world tour of Ramayana. Nepal, being a Hindu nation, has definite and strong bond with Lord Rama. In fact, they have their own Nepali versions of Ramayana. The great poet Bhanu Bhakta Acharya, known as the Adi Kavi of the Nepali language, was the first one to translate Ramayana from Sanskrit to Nepali. This Ramayana, known as Bhanu Bhakta Ramayana, is widely considered to be the first Nepali epic. Now that brings me to narrate a very interesting incident from the life of Bhanubhakta Acharya. One day, the poet was resting by the riverside, where he encountered a grass cutter. In the course of the conversation, it transpired that the grass cutter had put aside a sum of money from his earnings. When asked by the poet as to how he was going to use his savings, the grass cutter replied, I wish to dig a well in the village where I live, so that when I am no more, people may have something to remember me by. This simple sentence, uttered by the grass cutter, awakened in the poet a desire to do something so that his name might survive his death. When this stream of thought was flowing in his mind, he felt like writing a poem. And he did write one, a poem describing how the grass cutter was a man poor in money but rich in heart, while he himself was a rich man but with a worthless life. And then and there, he resolved to write the Ramayana, and this Nepali Ramayana has become the necessary adjunct of every Nepali household. A detailed analysis of the adaptation of Bhanubhakta Ramayana gives us the idea of how he follows the story of Rama as an Adhyatma Rama till the end, though he was too condensed to make his Ramayana short and leave out many incidents and details. However, we see a very poetic originality in this epic wherever the poet describes Nepali life. In other parts, he has established the beauty of the way of Nepali life. Therefore, we can never say that Bhanubhakta Ramayana is a mere translation of Sanskrit Adhyatma Ramayana. Now, let us look at a celebrated version of Ramayana in prose which appeared in the firmament of the never-ending trail of Lord Rama. This was written by Sundarananda Bandra, who created a very new Ramayana in his own style. Let me take out a few stories which stand out to depict the originality of Sundarananda. In Sundarakanda, when Hanuman was flying over Nandigrama, lifting in his hand the whole Gandhamadana mountain, Bharata spotted him. Bharata first took him for a devil, and by shooting an arrow at him, he made Hanuman fall down on earth. But when Bharata learned how Hanuman was an ally of Lord Rama, he apologized to him and sent him to Lanka quickly by putting Hanuman on the point of his arrow. Also, Bharata wrote a letter to Sri Rama narrating all the news about Ayodhya and sent it with Hanuman. This story portrays how Sundarananda has presented his own Ramayana to the Nepali-speaking people, trying to create a Nepali background and culture in many places. Now, as we had a glimpse of two of the most popular Ramayanas of Nepal, let's go for one more exploration for the latest Ramayana in Nepali prose. This Ramayana by Sri Bhairav Singh Thapa is called the Atma Ramayana. The author adapted this version from the Atma Ramayana in Hindi by Sri Swami Shankarananda and added the final kanda on his own, calling it the Lava Kusha Kanda. A very important aspect of this Rama is that it follows the Advaita philosophy, the non-dualistic school of thought that believes only one truth, that is Brahman. Now let us listen to the story of the birth of Dasharatha's children as mentioned in Atma Ramayana. When King Dasharatha was contemplating for a son, for which he with his 3 queens were praying, God became glad and they heard a voice from the sky. O king, I am very pleased with you. Ask what you want. Then King Dasharatha replied, O Lord, you have done so much for me. I only want to have your darshan always. Then again the voice from the sky was heard. O king, I am formless, boundless. Only the yogis from their samadhi could have a darshan of me. Therefore, one cannot always see me. But the learned and wise people who are full of jnana can always see me. O king, you also should obtain the jnana. King Dasharatha said, O Lord, The learned and wise people can see you through formless look, but I want to see you in form and shape. So please accept my prayers. Again the voice of the Lord was heard. Evamastu, as you wish. After some time, King Dasharatha had 4 sons from his 3 queens. This story presents a new approach to the birth of Rama and his brothers as the avatars of the Almighty. In all these 3 versions of Ramayana from Nepal, the beauty of the work lies in how the ethics and values put forth by the epic gets imprinted in the minds of people. The way Ramayana has brought about a revolutionary change in the Nepali literature is a clear example of that. The narrators may change, the stories may change. However, the underlying truth of Dharma and Satya portrayed by the life of Lord Rama stays unscarred in all these versions. Valmiki Girisambhuta Ramasagara Gamini Punati Bhuvanam Punya Ramayana Mahanadi. I conclude by praying that let the whole world become holy and blessed by this river of Ramayana, which originated from the mountain of sage Valmiki and flowed through the hearts of millions across the world through the rivulets in the form of various translations and retellings of this epic. Let us all join and reach our destination, which becomes the ocean of Rama. Om Amriteshwarya Namaha.
That was a sweet talk. Thank you, Amritavashini, for giving a clear-cut idea on Ramayana in Nepal and also for that sweet Sanskrit slokas recitations. Now we invite our final participant, Darshak M. Nambiar from S3 Intimacy Mathematics. Darshak is interested in Indic studies. Here he introduces us the Kavi Therapy. Over to you, Darshak.
Thank you, Rashmi. Am I audible? Namaskar.
Yes, you are.
Oh, okay, fine. Good evening, all. Om Namah Shivaya. Let's have a quick voyage through the Southeast Asian Ramayana. The researchers have already revealed the existence of surprising numbers of versions in this region. So, my focus is on the Kawai Turafi. The Royal Palace manuscript is the only copy so far known of Kawai Turafi. Kawai Turafi is the name of the Ramayana, but here there is you can't see the name of Rama in the title. Here Turafi was the name of a buffalo. This story corresponds to the episode of Dundupi in Valmiki's Ramayana. Narrating the Rama legend under this title points to the great popularity of this episode in these regions. The story starts with an invocation to the Buddhist trinity, that is Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. There was a king named Thaparamenshuen who ruled the kingdom of Kashi, not the Indian Kashi, it is some other Kashi ancient place located in Thailand, who had Thapadusuman, who had 3 sons. They were Tataratha or Dasharatha, who became the king of Kashi, then Virula, who became the king of Langa, and Virupaksha, who became the king of Kurutenkon. First of all, Rama and Lakshmana were the sons of Virupaksha, not Dasharatha's. And Dasharatha's sons were Bali and Sugriva, and a daughter named Nankashi, who gave birth to Hanuman. And even Ravana, Vibhishna and Indrajit. In our version, Indrajit was Ravana's son, but here Indrajit is Ravana's brother. So Ravana, Vibhishna and Indrajit were the sons of Virula at Langa. Thus Rama, Ravana and Sugriva were cousins and Hanuman was the nephew. Hanuman was known as Hanuman. So Hanuman's mother Nankashi was a courageous woman with strong determination. She even fought many battles. She was the only one who was ready to fight with the Turafi buffalo, our title name Turafi, who caused massive destructions for the citizens of Kashi. During the time of war, she was at an advanced stage of pregnancy. Then too, she fought for the betterment of the kingdom. It was mentioned that even though her womb was big and heavy, she had the strength of an elephant. Yet they highlight a woman who is ready to give her life for the sake of humanity. to ensure peace and harmony in the society. This version gives prior importance for women. So now let's talk about Sita Devi. Here, Sita Devi is known as Nang Sita, who was an incarnation of the chief queen of Indra, Nang Sujata. She took birth in order to take revenge on Ravana, since Ravana misused his divine powers and took the form of Indra to seduce 4 billion maidens, including the chief queen of Indra, that is Nang Sujata. That's why she reincarnated. That's why she incarnated as Nang Sita to take revenge on Ravana. So, but Sita was brought up by a sage named Kashyapa, who found a child on a raft. And when he met her for the first time, she was rubbing her eyes. Hence, he named her as Sita, because Sita, C plus Ta. C means rubbing, Ta means eyes. So, because when he met her for the first time, she was rubbing her eyes, so he named her as Sita. Then the story goes on, and finally Rama married Nang Sita by lifting a bow named Sahasrata Madanu. There is no mention of Shiva's bow, the sage Vishwamitra's part, and the Parshama's episodes and all. And if he goes to the abduction part of Sita, the golden deer episode is there, but the storyline is totally different. Here Indra is coming in the form of golden deer and not Myrijan as in ours. So Indra came in the form of golden deer because he felt if Sita, who is an incarnation of the Nang Sujata, his chief queen, if Sita is with Rama, then she won't go to take revenge on Ravana. And another thing is, instead of Lakshmana Rekha, it was the earth goddess who took care of Sita. And now let's see how they exhibit our brave Hanumanji. According to them, as I mentioned, it was Huluman, not Hanuman, son of Nankashi. Huluman was born with a high range of supernatural powers. He could take any form. It was said that no one could defeat him. When Rama was a bit skeptical of Hanuman's powers, Hanuman rose to the height of Mount Ekanthon, which was considered as the center of universe, and Hanuman ran around the universe in order to demonstrate his supernatural powers. While going to Lanka, in order to search for Sita, his supernatural powers got lost temporarily. So he took the form of a horse and rode for 7 days before he reached Lanka. It was mentioned like that. And after reaching Lanka, Hanuman met Sita, but Sita was not ready to go back with him because she was afraid what society would say if she go with an unknown man like Hanuman. And but Sita also added that Rama should beg Ravana for her release. If not, then he should come with his army for a war. So Hanuman went back and informed this matter to Rama, and Rama sent Hanuman's brother Onkut to Lanka with a letter and adequate gifts in order to beg Nang Sita's release. Ravana declared that he would release her, but one condition: Rama should construct rafts in succession over the ocean, linking the city of Lanka with the opposite shore. Similar to the Ramasetu part in our version, but our version Ramasetu was built using the stones, but here it's rafts which is mostly made up of wood, and it took almost 7 years for them to build that. Even after building those rafts, Ravana was not at all ready to release her as Nang Sita, which ultimately led to the war with Lanka. And in between, interestingly, Hanuman has a son named Rottai. But in our version, Hanuman was a brahmachari, but here is not a brahmachari. It was not considered him as a brahmachari. The son was born to an underwater fish queen when she drank his sweat. So a child born from Hanuman's sweat. Then as the war proceeded, and the story goes on, and ultimately Rama killed Ravana. So Rama killed Ravana by using an arrow named Tasaphon, and Rama mounted on Hanuman's shoulder and shot an arrow named Tasaphon which instantly killed Ravana. It was actually Vibhishna who informed Rama that Ravana could be killed only with a weapon named Tasaphon. And it was Hanuman who bought this weapon from the custody of certain demons. And eventually Rama won the war and they returned to their kingdom and then they lived a wonderful life for many years. But pathetically, after many years, Nang Sita made a living portrait of Ravana on the request of some of the palace maidens. The stone slab on which the portrait was drawn was concealed under the royal seat. When Rama took the seat, the portrait spoke like, both of us belong to the royal lineage. Why are you sitting on my head? The portrait spoke like that. Then Rama found that it was Ravana's portrait and he became really angry because he knew that it was drawn by Nang Sita. Then Lakshmana took the responsibility of executing Nang Sita, but later he refused to do so since she was pregnant. But Sita took shelter in the hermitage of sage Tipachaku, where she gave birth to two children. At first, she gave birth to a child named Frabhat. Later, the sage made an image of Frabhat and gave it life through his incantations. That child was named as Frahab. So similar to Lavakusha, but here it is Frabhat and Frahab, and how they were born also quite different. When Rama came to know about his sons, then with Lakshmana he went to the hermitage and brought back Sita with sage permission to their kingdom. So then the story goes, and the story ends like this: that after passing away from the world of mortals, Nang Sita rose to the dwelling of Indra and was reborn as Nang Sujata, the chief queen of Indra. The story ends like that. Now let's see some of the local beliefs which have the root from Ramayana. Folklore elements have been introduced in the story in an effort to enhance the popular appeal of the narratives. The text offers some interesting motifs and new materials for the study of folklore in Southeast Asian countries. Now, let me share some 3 to 4 beliefs which is dominant in those regions. The art of making skirts with several pieces of cloth. They are making a skirt using several pieces of clothes. It is a belief related to Nang Kashi, the lady who fought with the Turafi buffalo. So while she was fighting with the buffaloes, she rolled naked on the ground when her clothes were torn. And she collected small pieces of clothes and made a new one. So as per their belief, those clothes gave her immense strength to fight in the war. After that, they started making clothes using several small pieces of the skirt. And while she was fighting, she fell on buffalo's horns. When she fell on buffalo's horns, which then bent backward and became curved. So as per their belief, since then all buffaloes have curved horns. Even monkeys have read here. For them it was because once Hanuman struck his body with a blood-stained cloth. And another incident is when Rama did not believe Hanuman's claim that he had burned the palace of Ravana, then Hanuman begged Rama to close his ears and listen. After doing that, Rama could hear the crackling sound of fire burning the palace of Lanka. So locals says that this kind of noise is heard even these days. Nowadays also they can hear such noise. They were telling me that. So there are many more curious pieces of stories within this version. This is how there are many curious pieces of stories in this version, and this is how it became a captivating topic for me. And I hope one day definitely you all will read this version of Ramayana from the Southeast Asian countries. So by this I'm concluding my words, and I hope you all have enjoyed this voyage, a quick voyage of Rama and Nangsida with Lekkanna, or our Lakshmana and Huluman. So thank you. Om Namah Shivaya.
Thank you, Darshak, for taking us through this curious version of Ramayana from the Southeast Asia. That was the last version of Ramayana that our program will be discussing. Our participants have shown us the varying colors of Ramayana from different parts of the world and even within India. I believe they have done a wonderful job and I would like to thank them for their efforts. Thank you, guys.
The different versions of Ramayana paves us the way to move through different perspectives and visions. These mesmerizing thoughts enlighten our mind and thoughts. The great Valmiki Ramayana is the origin of all these sources. This great Indian literature is flourished and divided into several views, with the real essence always hidden in it. This shows that our culture would not get extinct or end, but it is immortalized and would sprout everywhere. Now I call upon Amrita ma'am for thank you note. Over to you, ma'am.
Namaskar. I hope I'm audible. So thank you, Rashmi. Um, I am just out of my words. I really truly feel really happy and, to be frank, really privileged to deliver the thank you note because today's session has been very special. Not, not just because it's a kaleidoscope, but the kaleidoscope in which our young, enthusiastic students have participated. I actually wanted to see all the eight speakers together on the screen. So, can you all please switch on your cameras? I'm exiting my spotlight. Okay. So, can someone spotlight eight of them for me, if possible? Yeah, I can see Harshita, Amritavarshini, Parvati, Darshak, Anjit. Okay, it's not working. It's okay. No need to spotlight. I just want to take a good pic of you all together. That's all. Yeah, it's done. So, thank you. I think I have got everyone together. Six of you. If Gokul and Rashmi can switch off your cameras, I'm sorry to say that I'm missing two people here. Yeah. Okay, fine. So, okay, now yeah, you can switch off your camera, so it's okay. So it's been a wonderful journey of Ramayana. Today is the last day of Karkada Masam, and from tomorrow onwards, Chingamasam is starting. So, and such a wonderful different versions of Ramayana on this day is really, really special. And you people have really put it in a very, very summarized and simple note. And we have been conducting Ramayana discussions all throughout this month. And you people coming up with this wonderful idea, I don't know, I am really out of words. So let me take this chance to thank each and every one of you who have very well presented your whatever you have understood, your version of the version of Ramayana throughout the world, from different places of the world. As very much mentioned by Rashmi, our culture would not exist because it's been flourishing, it has been spread across the world. And I'm very much sure with that, and adding to that, if students like you are there, how can our culture perish even at the very, 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 what to say, very much dangerous moment also. I'm very sure that you people are there to hold on to our culture and go forward and spread it across the world. So that's the power of our Indian culture, I would say for sure. So once again, thanking each and every speakers who have given us the version of Ramayana. And I also thank the coordinators who have taken a lot of time in organizing, conducting, planning, and executing in each every uh, part of this program. And wonderful coordination by Navneet, and the team was doing the complete coordination. And the Gokul and Rashmi, wonderful comparing. Thank you so much. And with them, uh, though Amritesh ji and myself was behind and supporting these students, the front lead was taken up by our fellow Akshay Mohanan. So thank you so much, Akshay. You have really brought a bouquet of flowers, a bouquet of Ramayana to us. So and also Ganga and Ashwati for the prayer. And my words of gratitude would be incomplete if I don't thank our beloved Amma for showering her immense grace on right from the beginning, like taking the topics, selecting, making you people read, getting a summary out of it, and presenting it. So her grace has been there all throughout. So thank you once again. I offer my words at the lotus feet of our beloved Amma. Om Amriteshwari Nama. And thank you so much, guys. You just made me speechless. No Shivaya, no Shivaya.
Thank you, Amrita ma'am, for those encouraging words. And so let's wind up our session by chanting the Shanti mantra. I call Ashwati for reciting the Shanti mantra.
ॐ लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ